Oh, there you go. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome. We're just going to wait a few minutes as people trickle in. I'm joined today by John Whitaker and Carlos Mendez from Huron. We'll talk a little bit about them in a short while. But let's just give it a minute or two. I see people coming in. What I am going to do in the meantime is to plop the interesting links into the chat. There we are. Wow, I'm totally efficient. I'm Carrie and Roger today. So yeah, so we're I can see there's about 19 people in, still coming in. Oh, it's still a good clip. So I think what we'll do though is we'll make a start. And John and Carlos, just so you are ready, we've got some good fun facts about them coming up. Yeah, literally two opposite ends of the scale, one with dance and one with bodybuilding. So that's the cliffhanger. And in the meantime, let's make a start, John, if you don't mind moving to the next slide. So the helpful links you'll find, I've popped those into the chat. And while I'm talking about chat, we do have questions and answers at the end of this. Please do not put your Q&A questions into chat. Put them into the Q&A tab. You'll see the Q&A tab at the bottom of the screen. Use that. I will be monitoring that, and I'll make sure that I give it to our two experts. Next slide, please, sir. So really, this is just to show, you know what? I never introduced myself this time. So I'm Roger Cressy, and I'm an associate director with Bravantia. Effectively, they are a full service consultancy for Oracle products, ERP, analytics, EPM. Anyway, with that, let's move on. Future and past TechCasts. This is, if you go to our website, andouc.org, we have an archive of all of the presentations done in the past. Some of them really, I know technology moves on, but a lot of them are really practical, useful technological presentations, so that can actually make your life easier. We'd love to hear from you if you've got abstracts that for things that you want to present that are using Oracle technology and pushing the envelope, or for new things that Oracle is launching. We'd really love to see those, and you may find yourself joining our illustrious cast of TechCast people. John and Carlos being our latest ones. But we now have our own merchandise. We'd love you to go and look. This is designed by Dr. Abby Giles Haig, another one of our volunteers on the board at AnDOUC. So go and have a look at that. Some of it's quite appealing, and it's definitely different. Next slide, sir. So there's lots of different ways to connect with us. I will drop these into the chat after I've finished introducing the gents. But we've got the website. Slack is a great mode to interact with everybody. We have a lot of Oracle product management actually on Slack as well. So if you've got questions about your particular Oracle products, you can always post them in there as well. I'm not saying, you mustn't go and use Oracle Customer Connect. That's still important to do. But Slack's a great way of communicating. We've got all of our archived presentations also on YouTube, as well as the normal LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, etc. So thank you. Next slide, sir. Yeah, there we are. I was getting impatient then. So Analytics and Data Summit. So in April, we are having our second in-person summit since since the wonderful COVID. And I just would like to encourage you to come to that. It is a place, again, we're right on Oracle's doorstep. This is literally at Oracle's premises, number 300 Oracle Parkway. And we have a lot of Oracle product management there. You get to meet with them face to face, and it's usually a very useful 3 days. So please put this in your diaries. Go on the website. There's actually still an early bird offering until the end of this month. So yeah, please feel free. Anyway, and let's move on to the main event. As I said earlier, I'm joined by John and Carlos. They are both in the analytics area. John manages it. Carlos works in that area. And they've both been at Huron for around 6 years. But in fact, they've followed each other around the world in other consultancies as well, I think. So they're a good team and very knowledgeable. And the fun facts that I have, first of all, John, he's actually, I did initially have views of sort of visions of him in a tutu, but he's actually a hip hop dancer. There's a group of dads who dance at his daughter's dance club. And I'll leave you to say some more of that and defend your honor. And then Carlos is a brute of a man, from what I hear. He's completely into health, and he was talking about his percentage fat level and amazing capabilities. So yeah, completely the opposite of me, I think. But with that, I have two very knowledgeable gentlemen, and I'd like to hand over to you to present. Thanks so much for being here today, guys.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Thank you, Roger. Just I'll defend myself here in a second, but let's just go over what we're going to talk about today. We'll just do some more introductions, primarily about Carlos and my experience in this area. We're going to first discuss Fusion ERP Analytics, what it is. We're talking about extending it, so I want to baseline what it is. And then I'm going to talk about the extensibility framework, how you can add EPM cloud data to Fusion ERP Analytics. And then Carlos is going to do probably what I would say the main event. He's going to do that heavy lifting, so to speak. And he's going to go through the demo of what we've done in the past through our demo environment. We have done it obviously for clients, but really show how it works. And then I'm going to talk about what we've learned with the tool, specifically when to use it, when not to use it, and you know, the positives of the tool. So let me go into our introductions. Carlos and I are in the Huron Oracle Analytics team. I think we both started in 2017, but Carlos and I go way back. I was his first manager when he came out of the University of Michigan. You might be familiar with them because their coach just left, but anyways, Carlos is still struggling with the news of Jim Harbaugh leaving for the Chargers, but he'll be okay. He is one of our senior consultants, one of our tech leads. Both of us have been working in Oracle ERP Cloud Analytics using a variety of the tools like BIX, OAC, building custom data warehouses using BICC, etc. over the last 7+ years. And before that, we've done OBIE, BI apps. So Carlos, are you there?
Yeah, my internet is having a little connection issues, but hopefully I can make it through.
All right.
Can you hear me?
So-
Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Yes.
All right.
So the dancing is purely so my 8-year-old can laugh at me when I get on stage. It's in front of her entire like recital. It's just me taking one for the team. It's purely for um laughs, I've determined. It's kind of between the two parts of the show. We're kind of the clowns that come out and attempt to dance. So there is no quality there. It's just really for fun and games. Carlos, I think, is much more uh, professional in his approach. So
Well, I wouldn't say professional. So I do dabble a bit in fitness. John likes to joke around. So whenever I'm on like client sites, I eat like 6 meals a day. So he's like, "Oh, is it time for a first or second lunch?" So I do take it very seriously. I haven't competed or anything, but almost to that level.
all right. Well, anyways, he could.
Right.
So let's just get right into it. So why ERP analytics? Carlos and I have done a lot of custom work to create data warehouses out of ERP. It's a difficult proposition. So it's the Fusion ERP analytics value prop is really, it's pre-built. It's an Oracle managed both like data pipelines and Oracle, OAC, RPD content. It's all pre-built, ready to go for all of the core ERP modules. So for those of you familiar with BI apps, it would be sort of like you just hit a few buttons and then everything just gets configured. So you say, hey, I want expenses, I want GL, AP. It starts generating all of the ETL for you. It generates the RPD, it generates the tables, it generates all of the content, and then you have your own instance of all of the areas that you have in ERP. So it's a great tool. It also has the ability to work across all Fusion applications. So ERP, SCM, HCM, CX, it uses conform dimensions. To try to do this yourself would, to be honest, take years. I think a lot of you that have been doing this for a living know that having a complex enterprise application data warehouse used to be a very long and arduous process. So it's great that that's just something that you can purchase and get up and running very quickly. The thing that we really like about it, though, is that you can extend the semantic model. Now, you can't go into the BI admin tool, but you can essentially do a lot of the things that you would do in the BI admin tool through the configuration screens. You also have the ability to have your own custom schema within the ADW that comes with Fusion Analytics. So because of that, you can really add any data that you want. It does have a framework for extending, doing some automatic extensions using some built-in connectors, and I'll get into that a little bit later. But really, it's the best of both worlds. So Oracle manages it. It gets you, most of the way there. You can add to it and you can customize it based on your business needs. This slide shows some out-of-the-box reports. You can see it covers a large gambit of how someone would want to look at their financials in a very visual way. So it's using the data visualization tool to its maximum potential. So this is just a listing of some of the subject areas, some of the dashboards and pre-calculated KPIs that come with it. It really covers a broad range. Oracle is every release adding to this, so this is probably already out of date. The rate of change has been pretty incredible over the last couple years. And the great thing about it is every time there's a release, if there's new subject areas, you can just go and turn those on. So it's really makes a upgrade. It's not upgrades, it's updates. So very, very simple way to move forward. A lot of content, very comprehensive. So from a just high level architecture, it uses Oracle Analytics Cloud. It uses the Oracle Autonomous Data Warehouse, sort of your common Oracle Analytics stack, but it has this pre-built semantic layer. So it has your pre-built, basically RPD and data warehouse data structures that the instance creation process generates. And then it has data movement services. So it is going to, Oracle's data pipelines are going to populate the relevant tables within that common data model. But then you could see in the little circled area, there are data augmentation capabilities. So there's some connectors like the EPM connector that Oracle provides that allow you to enrich the data and add that to the delivered data model, to the delivered data warehouse tables and data model. I'm not going to go through all the details, but it's really using just standard OCI capabilities. So standard OAC, standard ADW. There's some configuration and administrative things that you can't do versus like your own OAC, but it's because it's managed by Oracle. So those items are managed by Oracle. But in terms of being able to do machine learning, do BI Publisher, doing OAC Classic, doing data visualization, all of those things are included. All right, so let me go a little bit deeper into the extensibility framework. So as I was talking about earlier, just now, the red part is what Oracle builds. So it has the pipelines, it has the schema and data model, it has a semantic model. There's some use case, some machine learning algorithms that are delivered, and then it has pre-built content. So the great thing is you can do basically the entire same thing and add to what Oracle provides using the same framework. So there's options to create, using connectors, additional managed pipelines. So it's going to run through the same pre-built data pipeline job to populate a custom schema and then a custom data model. So you're going to have to build the data model as appropriate. And we'll talk about how we've done that. Or you can use a custom ETL tool like ODI if you want to do more complex data warehousing, or if there's some sources that the managed data pipelines don't support. Again, you add using screens, configuration screens, you basically extend the pre-built semantic model with the additional tables. So you can add new facts, you can add additional dimensions. We're not going to go into the details of semantic model extensions. We're going to focus mostly on getting the data from EPM Cloud into the data model, but very extensive capabilities here. And then you can really build anything you want on top of that from a front end perspective. So what do the data pipelines look like? Over here on the left, this is what Oracle does. They get the data from the Fusion Cloud applications, depending on what modules you purchase, like SCM or ERP, you're going to get different content. You can turn different pipelines and modules on and off based on what you have in your Fusion applications. It's going to first be loaded into a staging table, and then it's going to be converted into basically a star schema. And that star schema gets, there's an RPD that's mapped on top of that with conform dimensions and hierarchies and levels and all of the basic things that you would do if you were creating something from scratch. There are two other ways to get the data in, like I was talking about. You can use the managed pipelines. So there's a variety of supported sources. There's some on-premise sources. There's sources like connectors to SFTP. There's application sources like EPM Cloud, Salesforce. Those are constantly being added every release. And then there's the capability to do like REST APIs and some other more custom pipelines. So that happens in conjunction with this red like pre-built pipeline. So those two things are all running within the Oracle managed pipeline stack. You can create your own custom ETL right to the staging table, to the custom schema, add it to your data warehouse, and then extend the semantic model. So if that's what you want to do, you can continue to do that. Alternatively, if you have some custom ETL that's populating a different ADW, you can then point those, let's say it's something that you're comfortable with, you are happy with, you can then point those ETL jobs to this new FAW data warehouse. There's some merge capabilities. Let's say if you have OAC RPD that you want to merge with the FAW semantic model, but by having your own custom schema, you can really do whatever you want with custom ETL. But obviously, that's a lot more effort than using these supported managed data pipelines. So I'm now going to get to EPM Cloud. So the OAC stack has had an EPM Cloud connector for a while now. It's a direct connection to the EPM Cloud application. It's a simple connector, just like all of the other OAC connectors. It'll go directly to the EPM cube. You can create reports and visualizations within that EPM application. So it's a very good alternative. It's a very good tool for that specific use case, but it only works within that EPM cloud. It doesn't work within the Fusion Analytics or FDIP. I'm having a hard time keeping up with the names of the tool, but anyways, so the Fusion Analytics data model and data warehouse is not going to have the data if you use this OAC connector. So you can't do things like extend it with the conform dimensions and have the data next to each other cleanly like you would if it was all in one data warehouse. So the EPM connector does allow you to get it all within the same data warehouse. You can extend the semantic model. And so that allows you to blend EPM and ERP data very nicely in an easy manner. So it's in a subject area. You don't have to do data blending and some of the, I would say, more power user based approaches that you would need to do if you have a connector. So this just makes it part and parcel of your Fusion Analytics implementation. And I'll just go a little bit into the pros and cons and sort of the capabilities of how these tools work. So again, OAC connector, just part of it. It's querying the live data. It uses EPM security because of the way you log in. It's very fast to set this up. Again, it doesn't allow you to get to extend the Fusion Analytics semantic model. It's really focused on EPM data use cases. And then you can't necessarily go and leverage the drill across, drill down capabilities that you would if you have everything within your semantic model in OAC that using a connector would have. The other thing is it's all customer managed. So you have to create it. You have to make sure that you have user credentials that have the proper permissions, etc. Now, the Fusion Analytics EPM connector, I would call this a more enterprise approach. So you can use EPM, or you do use EPM data load rules to pull the data out of EPM in the manner that's needed for your use case. You then can do semantic modeling extensions, like I was saying, and then you can have the drill downs, drill across, and then it's part of the data pipelines. And you can also request ad hoc updates, but it's really just part of the normal load schedule that you have in Fusion Analytics. The cons, and this is really just more so implementation effort, is you will have to model that EPM data. You're going to have to design what you want. Just like if you're doing any data warehousing project, you have to figure out what data you need from your extract. You have to model it and, put into your semantic model. So the thing, it's not a silver bullet. It's not a quick and dirty approach, but it allows you to make a real subject area on top of EPM Cloud without having to do any custom ETL. You stay within the application itself. So it is a nice way to get EPM Cloud data within your system in a much faster format. The data is not live, like I was saying. That's generally the drawback of data warehousing in general. Now, there's ways of getting the data in a faster way in terms of when you schedule it and such, but it's not going to be live like the OAC connector. And then there's some of the metadata, like hierarchies, some of that would be really living in EDMCS, not necessarily like the master data of some of your cubes is probably going to be sourced from EDMCS, depending on the complexity of your EPM implementation. So some of that information is not going to come across when you just are connecting to, say, PBCS and pulling the data. So this is really what Carlos is going to show is I am pulling data out. Again, pulling transactional data out. If you want some additional information about complex hierarchies for your segments that are coming out of EDM, that is a separate process that you have to do. But without further ado, I think it's good. We took 30 minutes to get to this point. So that should give Carlos plenty of time to go through this and answer questions. So I'm going to pass this off to Carlos.
So maybe while Carlos is busy getting his screen up, there's a couple of questions here. Victor Hernandez says, is the FDIP EPM connector still a preview feature? That's the first question.
I believe it's still a preview feature, but if it's a preview feature, it is supported by Oracle. So, you know, anyone can go in and turn on a preview feature. So once it actually hits preview, I would say it is something that's implementable for a customer, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. And I'll say there's a couple from Michael Murray as well, but we'll take those at the end. Let's let Carlos get on with the demo.
All right, can you guys see my screen? Are you seeing the
all good.
At this point it's FDI console?
Yes. Very
Okay,
good.
perfect. So as that first question, it is still a preview feature. So when you create the instance of FDI, it will not be enabled natively. So the first step you would have to do is basically enable the feature. So you would go to the connectors here, and the one that I'm going to be demoing is the Oracle EPM planning and budgeting connector. So this one here. So it's already been enabled in this environment that I'm working on. So once you have it enabled, you can come over to the data configuration. And then from here, you're going to do the manage connections. And I've already created one here, but what you would do is you would click create up at the top. You would find your connection type from what's been enabled from that previous features screen. And then let me just edit the one that I have done for this. Put this. So what you will need for this connection is a user that has the privileges to run the data load rule job that has been created on the EPM side. So typically, if you're working with a client, this is probably going to be some service account that they provide you that has that access. You'll need the URL for the EPM instance, the data file. So this is basically the output file of the data load rule job that's defined in EPM, and the name of the job that basically is configured to create this file. You can have multiple jobs and multiple output files within one connection. So if you're trying to pull multiple sets of data out of, you know, the PBCS cube, you would need, it would be comma separated. There's another screen where I'll show you what that would look like if you had multiple files or multiple jobs. The period name isn't necessary. If you don't fill it in, it just uses a global viewpoint of that period. So once you have this, the first thing you're going to want to do after you have that configured is test the connection. Once you have a successful connection, you're going to have to refresh the metadata. And I've already done that because it does take a little bit, like a few minutes. So I didn't want to do that during the demo. So as you can see, I tested that connection. It was completed successfully. I refreshed the metadata, that completed successfully. So the refresh metadata is really important because this is what actually makes it possible to do the next step, which is you're going to go to data augmentation. And before I even do that, so had I not had anything enabled, so this EPM connector enabled, there wouldn't be this drop down up here that shows up. So like right now, I'm on the Fusion data source, but what I want to be on is the EPM planning and budgeting. So that actually shows up once you have that successful connection. And then the first thing you're going to want to do before you can do your data augmentation is the pipeline settings. And what this is going to do is define when you're doing your initial extract and how frequently you're going to be, like, this is going to be called, this augmentation is going to be called. So cancel that. And actually, if you didn't do the pipeline settings first, if you were to go into the data augmentation, it wouldn't let you create. It would actually give you a warning that you have to do that. So there would be a button here that you would click and basically set those settings. So once you have those settings configured, again, you're going to create a data augmentation. So I have one that's already been created, but I will go through the steps of how I did that. So there's multiple augmentation types. For the purposes of this demo, I'm just going to do the create dimension. Your source data type is going to be supplemental data. It's going to be system provided for the source table. So as I was saying before, if you had added like a comma separated list of different files with those different jobs, they would show up as multiple items to select from in this source table dropdown. So in this instance, I only had one thing in there, so that's why I'm only seeing this FAW planning export, which was the name of the file from that connection. I'm going to do this, but it's going to give me a warning, so I'm just going to ignore that. You wouldn't get that if it was your first one, right? So I'm going to continue there. So from here, this is where you're selecting the columns that you want from the file that was generated in EPM through those data load rules. I'm assuming when you created that data load rule, you probably had all the columns that you wanted, so you could probably just click the select all here and bring over everything. And then so from this screen, this is where you basically can modify some of the data that's coming in. So by default, as you can see, every varchar is 4,000 characters. You're probably not storing 4,000 characters in these columns. So you would basically go through the activity of setting the size that you want. So like, for instance, you could drop that down to like 150 or something. The primary key is already set for this, the system generated surrogate key. What this primary key is really going to do is help the pipeline do its insert update strategy. So a key on that primary key to say, oh, do I have this row already or not? And do I insert it or do I update it? So the pipeline is going to handle that automatically for you. You do need at least one metric before you can move on to the next screen. So if I have amount here, it's coming in as varchar, but what I would want to do is change that to a number and then do that. It should be measure. Of course, it's not working here. Let me try a different one. So usually if you change it to a number, it should show up as treat as a metric. I'm not sure why it's giving me a hassle here.
Carlos, you selected make this a dimension, right?
Well, so it like the treat as should show up as a metric. Let me go back to the one that I already have created.
It's just got a bit of stage fright.
Yeah, I mean that's what happens, right? You do a demo and it always yells at you or something doesn't go right. Oh, that one's not showing there. Let me try this again. Bear with me, folks. because watch, you'll see that if I do, oh, it's not yelling at me this time. Well, what normally happens, well, it will say you need at least one metric. I'm not sure why it's not yelling at me this time, but let's ignore that. So what would happen is you would have to change this to a number, and then this drop down would show treat as a metric, and it would have the different ways that you can aggregate the metric, sum or mean or something like that. So once you have all of this set up, you basically go to the next step here and basically enter in a name for your augmentation and a description of what it's doing. So we would say like EPM fact, adding additional information. Yes. And so this this table name is always going to have a DW PBCS on it. What you're doing is basically entering the latter part of it, the suffix. So in this case, I believe it was EPM 39, I believe. So once you have that, there's a couple different options. You can save without running it, you can run immediately, or you can schedule it for a later time. Usually I'll just say run immediately and then finish that. So it was EPM 39. So this is going to run immediately, and it's going to basically create a table within the data warehouse. So I'm going to pop over to my friend SQL developer. We go way back, so I'm going to go over there. Let me know if you can see the SQL developer screen. I want to make sure I did that right in Zoom.
All good.
Okay, perfect. So I am connected to the OAX_user schema. This is basically the custom schema that allows for the extensions of the data model. So you basically get the synonyms of the actual warehouse tables. So it's basically read only. So when you come in here, you're going to see that table that was created through augmentation is going to show up in your list of synonyms here. Keep going, keep going. Ooh, there it is. Sorry. So here it is, this DW PBCS X EPM 39. At this point, you still don't really have access to model it within the semantic model. What you have to do is basically create a view on top of this for it to show up in your semantic model extensibility. So I've actually done that already. I'll go up to that. Up to my views here. So it's basically as simple as issuing a select star from that particular synonym. And then once you have this view created, this is very important. You have to grant a select to this OAX $OAC user. That is what allows it to show up in the semantic model extension tool. And I can quickly pop over to that. Let me see how I'm doing on time. Okay. So once you have that created, you can go into the semantic model, create a branch off of that. So I'd say, yeah. And let's pretend that, let's assume that this fact that I'm bringing in, the dimensions already exist within the framework of FDI. So they're conform dimensions. So what I would do then is I have this new fact. I'm going to add a fact. Give it a name. And let's say I want to do like a budget versus actuals or something. So I'm going to add it to my balance sheet here. And so I'm going to select OAX user. And so this is what I was saying, where it was important that I gave that grant, that select privilege to that OAX $OAC user. That's what allows it to show up in your objects drop down here. So if you see, should have the DW PBCSX planning app. So that's my fact there. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but just show. So I would name it fact planning, something along those lines. I would select the attributes that I need. So activity being a dimension, I'd say, okay, I want to use that for my key, use that for my key, use that, select that, use that for key, use that for, do period for the key there. And then once you have that, this is where you would define the joins to the dimensions that live within that subject area. So those conform dimensions, if you will. So you would have some of your segments here. Those would join up to the keys that you selected and so forth. Skip that. Then you would select your aggregation for any metrics. If it's not being aggregated, you would set these to none. And then a very important part is for the dimensions that you join to, you have to make sure that you set the levels. Otherwise, it will not work properly when you actually deploy it. I'm going to cancel and exit out of that. So once it had I completed all of that, you would see that particular fact within the subject area with those conform dimensions, and you would be able to then, build reports utilizing GeoBalance and the new fact. And I think that's all I had. So I'm going to stop sharing so John can kind of wrap up with the next set of slides.
I've got a few more questions for you as well.
Sure.
So I think Michael Murray's left, but he's just saying, John, great information overview. Unfortunately, I have to drop for a client call. Can you cover the difference between the two EPM managed pipeline types? I haven't been able to find information on that, but I think the newer one supports EDMCS. But just a guess, though. And he then, in the next question, he actually highlights documentation stuff saying EPM planning and budgeting data export. This feature enables connecting to an EPM export data instance to bring data into Oracle Analytics Warehouse for data augmentation versus Oracle EPM planning and budgeting. This feature enables connecting to an Oracle EPM instance to build a managed data pipeline with data from that instance. So
I have not done the data export version of it. I've only done the one that we've shown, and I've actually done a POC for the EDMCS one of the one that we've shown, so that version as well. So I don't really know what the difference is for that data export. So hopefully we can get somebody else to bring in some other expert to answer that difference there.
Yeah, if necessary, I'll get one of the FDI guys to answer us. But thank you. And then Siddharth Mishra says, is FCCS, EDMCS, and ARCs also supported?
FCCS, yes. What was the EDMCS?
And
yes.
Account reconciliation close. The ARCs.
I'm not sure about the last one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, brilliant.
It's documented, or Oracle is constantly adding to it. So I don't think ARCs, but you can check the connector documentation.
All right. And then Gaurav Saragi says, why can't we provide select grant on the table instead of view for it to appear in semantic model screen?
Yeah, I tried that before. It doesn't work. You have to create the view on top of it. But that's a good question.
Okay. Right. Well, there you go. So, gentlemen, I think that's basically it. We're 10 minutes to the top of the hour.
Oh,
You have any?
I had one more slide.
Okay.
So let's see if I can. All right. Can you see this slide?
Not yet.
Not yet.
All right. So must have hit the wrong button.
There we come.
Now
Something's
can you
coming.
see?
There
All right.
Yes.
So let me just talk about some lessons learned. You need to make sure that you understand your use case. Like, as Carlos shown, there's like a decent amount of work that goes into doing this, across all layers of extensibility. So is this something that is extending ERP, like you want to look at budget versus actuals, or if not, you can use the direct connector or you can use the native tools. I don't think the intended use of this isn't necessarily to take all of your data out of EPM and put it into a data warehouse. Because then, I mean, the data augmentation is just that, right? It's supposed to augment what you have in ERP analytics. The segments, you need to understand your segments, and are those the same or different from ERP cloud? If you have different segments, then you probably have to go to EDMCS to get your master data for your segments. The other thing is data volumes. Just like all data load rules, there's if the file or the cube is very large, it's going to take it could potentially take a lot of time to run that data load rule. And the data load rule, all it's, really at the end of the day, it's generating a file. So if you have an extremely large data set, just like any sort of ETL, you might have to partition that and put it into multiple tables. So those are some of the things that have been some lessons learned for us. I think the bottom line, our experience is it is a great solution for enriching ERP data with EPM data. So you don't have to do custom ETL, and you can really just leverage the framework that's part of ERP analytics. It is not, like I was saying, it's not meant to build a highly customized data warehouse from EPM. It's not like an ETL tool, which you would want to use to create maybe some aggregate tables. This isn't OAC, ODI, custom data warehousing solution. But I don't think that's really what it's trying to be. It's trying to be a data augmentation solution. So quick time to value, low maintenance because it's part of the framework. It's part of what Oracle provides. It's managed by Oracle. If there's issues, it's part of the Oracle notification system. You can get the Oracle notification service, and it can be part of that. So there's a lot of value by having it within the FAW framework. But again, it is not a custom data warehousing solution. However, if you are trying to extend ERP data with EPM data, do drill downs and do I would say your core use cases for having the two pieces of data, great ROI. So those are the main things I wanted to point out. If there's some other, is there another question that came in?
Yeah, there is. Does Oracle provide connectors like this for all the Fusion modules? And yeah, as far as I know, it's certainly all the key modules are supported, aren't they?
Yeah, so when you say
Finance,
all, so like
supply chain.
SCM,
Yeah.
like the connectors exist like for everything. The connector is just going to push the data into the data warehouse. You know, is there going to be a use case where some EPM cloud data is going to you know, make sense in conjunction with some HCM cloud data? I mean, I suppose you know, maybe some salary information in conjunction maybe with like a labor planning cube, or you know, like some SCM data in conjunction maybe with, I don't know, some consolidation data, sort of going on a limb. But yeah, I mean, if there is a use case to combine data in that, anything coming out of Fusion Analytics, you can use any connector, including these connectors, but make sure there is a use case for extension of the data. Does that make sense? Carlos, anything you would want to add?
No, I think you covered the key points that we've seen.
Well, gentlemen, thank you. I really appreciate you joining us and educating us. Great presentation. And yeah, it's really interesting to try and keep abreast of what Oracle is up to next. If you can remember the name from one week to the next, then I think you're pretty golden. So
They're
FDI.
definitely keeping our marketing team in business.
Yes, basically, yes. All right, so thank you everybody for joining us today. It was great to have you on, and this will be in the archive within a few days. You'll find it on YouTube and on the AnDOUC archive. So thanks once again, gents. Really good to spend time with you, John and Carlos. Much appreciated. Cheers.
Thanks, Roger.
All right, thanks everyone.
Bye.
Bye.